south side or the north side. Not tuned to the greatest. Home team for the home teams. Both sides got our own rings. On the mound or the long ball. But we don't put the wrong strings. Yeah. It's that time of the year now. Wrigley or Ganty, so the whole league that we hear now. New show with a new mood. Discussions and interviews. Trade rumors that might be. This is Pinwheels and Knife.
Welcome to the Pinwheels and Ivy podcast. My name is Aldo. I have Kevin with me at KFids on Twitter /X. As always, Pinwheels and Ivy podcast brought to you by Homage. Click on the QR code that's going to be on the screen up here in a bit. Check out some great Cubs and White Sox products. I know college football is back. A lot of great stuff for that too. Rays fans, I know they have some stuff for guys like Mitch who like NASCAR, Formula One stuff too. NFL training camp that's starting up. Get some Bear stuff too. We're also brought to you by Sports Mockery. Go to sportsmockery.com. Catch all the latest news and rumors about the Cubs, White Sox trade deadline coming up 2 weeks. Again, Bears training camp that's getting underway. Bulls Summer League that won their first round pick. He keeps dunking on guys. That's something. Catch those highlights on there. Sports Mockery, sportsmockery.com. Download the app. Turn on notifications. Kevin, it's been a couple weeks now. We last week scheduling stuff, but it's fine. We're all it's middle of July, you know. We got the All-Star break this week, but we were on our own little break. We'll get to what we think about the Cubs later on, but we have to start with some little quick Sox news. Martin Maldonado, who I think has been Zoe is somewhere in Michigan, maybe on a strip pole, maybe not.
It could be now. Actually stripping on the strip pole.
But I think Martin Maldonado has to be in his Mount Rushmore of like most hated like players that have been on the White Sox. He was finally DFA'd about an hour ago, Wednesday here. One of the worst free agent signings ever. I mean, both teams, both Cubs and White Sox. We know there's a lot of players on that list. But Martin Maldonado, I think he only signed for $4 million. You're not really expecting much, but you're not expecting a guy to have an 11 WRC plus, which is what he had heading up to the All-Star break. The White Sox finally DFA him, which is funny and ironic because he was like the White Sox hottest hitter, along with Luis Robert Jr. heading into the All-Star break. But Kevin, what do you think of the timing of this? Were they just like desperate to just make room here? They're like, man, we don't want another 2 months. We don't want another 2 weeks of you.
I mean, this is house cleaning time. You're seeing teams sneeze like that. That thing was coming for like about 30 seconds. I was like, as soon as you asked me the question, I'm like, son of a bitch, that sneeze is coming right now, isn't it?
That was Maldonado's spirit going through right there.
Dang, I was possessed by the spirits. But it's house cleaning kind of time a little bit for some of these organizations like the White Sox. They're kind of probably freeing up some space. They're looking at guys saying it's time for them to get a look. They've seen enough. The All-Star break is a good time to kind of hit the pause button for a lot of these teams and fan bases. You've seen it as a Cub fan too, but for the White Sox, obviously it's been equally, or not equally, not even close to equally as bad. But it's just a time for them to kind of like reassess and make moves. And I think this is where they can take even a little bit more time on instead of just doing it on the fly, but they can actually, make these moves without feeling like you have to rush. They got a couple days to kind of mull things over. And when you see teams do that, they start making moves. They start kind of, doing inventory, so to speak. And this is probably one of those moves. I know they signed someone yesterday too. Who was it?
No, that's the other minor move they made. They traded for, or they picked up Nick Senzel. Used to be with the Nationals this year. Was a former first-round pick of the Reds. So Cubs fans know him. Late 2010s, early 2020s. That's a guy. I mean, okay. I don't know. He had like a OPS in the 600s, which again is bad, but not like as bad as that number seems right off the top. But again, it's not like a guy. He's not a difference maker. He's 29, I think. They sent down Lenine Sosa. He's 22, 23. They DFA'd Danny Mendick. I mean, for me, again, outside perspective here, kind of a head scratcher because, again, it's a lost season. Why not play those young guys to see what they have? I mean, it's not like Senzel's like old. He's again 29. He has that first round pedigree, but I don't get this move either.
Does it seem like the White Sox are just trying to get to a certain point of the season where they feel they can then bring up the younger prospects, but they're not there yet? Like, they're like, once we get to about a month and a half, we want to give them just like only a month and a half. Like, so are they trying to basically just kill time until they hit that point and then like, all right, now we can go ahead and bring these guys up? It's almost like they're just kind of just trying to just
Yeah,
their heads above water.
Again, it's always a tough balance of okay, yeah, sure, you have these young guys and you want to see them play, but at the same time, if you don't feel like they're going to be difference makers, and like maybe you just view them as depth guys in the future, it's like, okay, maybe they don't need 500 plate appearances this year. You bring in a guy like Senzel again, okay, former first rounder, so he has the talent somewhere in there. Maybe try to get some, but again, this just reminds me of all these other earlier moves where like you're signing the veteran guys who are taking at bats from guys that you acquired before or bringing up to the system. It's just, you're already losing. It's not like the White Sox are trying to have a respectable record here. They have 71 losses, most losses ever heading into the All-Star break. What are you trying to save face for? Like, you don't want to lose 125. You want to lose 120. Like, I don't, I don't get some of these moves. I mean, the Maldonado one, I get, like, good. You're clearing space because, hopefully maybe later in the season, like you said, maybe they're catching prospect Edgar Cuero, who's been having a pretty good season at Double-A. Younger guy, 20, 21, I think. It's like, okay, we want to bring him up, but we don't want him up for like 2.5 months. We want him up for like maybe mid-August.
Right.
We're not ready there yet, but let's clear the space now. And again, Nick Senzel up. I don't know. All right. Cool. No Danny Mendick. Sorry to miss you, Carol. I think that was one of her favorites there. DFA. Lenine Sosa again, got a guy who was starting to hit better. They just don't like some of these young guys. Like Oscar Colas just never gets a chance. They had one guy from the trade with the Diamondbacks. He's been up and down. Tough days for the White Sox, and I guess we can transition right into questionable decisions, at least from the fan base's perspective, because the 2024 MLB Draft just concluded, kicked off on Sunday. The White Sox had a top 10 pick here, number 5 overall, right, Kevin?
Yes.
5 overall. They had the kid from Florida on the board. Everyone thought that was going to be the move. White Sox fans wanted it. They have wanted it for a couple months here. But no, they don't go for him. And instead of Kevin, they go pitcher, Hagen Smith, and White Sox fans. And again, this is tough. Chris Getz can do whatever he wants, but he's gonna have to eventually put a winning team on the field. And whether you think it's a good move or not, the criticism was there, and the whole scouting department here, because it's Chris Getz making the final move, but he's relying on the farming director here. Right. All those scouting reports. He goes for the pitcher. What do you think, Kevin? Hagen Smith.
It's best available arm, man. He's best pitcher, probably the best pitcher in the draft. He was the SEC Pitcher of the Year, and I know a lot of Sox fans are concerned. Does this Garrett Crochet? Does this symbol indicate that the White Sox are going away from Garrett Crochet? Organizations don't draft someone based on what they have at the major league level. They're taking this guy because he's the best arm in the draft. He was the best perceived arm by a lot of people in this draft. Sox fans are so, you wanted a bat. Well, guess what? You got the best. They're mad about getting the best arm in the draft per most experts. And he's a good arm. He's going to get outs. He's a lefty. They win a couple lefties, big lefty too, good projectable. He's got no health concerns, which was something that might be a lot different than what Garrett Crochet's dealt with. But he's not Garrett Crochet. And this doesn't necessarily indicate that Crochet might be gone. I mean, he might be gone, but it also is just, when you draft, especially when it comes to baseball, it's not the NBA. You're not drafting because you need a power forward at the in your starting five. You're drafting because you need the best players in your in your organization. And none of these guys are guaranteed to pan out. The number one pick in the draft this year is not a guarantee. Nothing is guaranteed to these guys. It's not the NFL, the NBA, where these guys jump right in. So I think it's a great pick. I liked it. I actually was more shocked when I saw the negative reaction to it. But again, I think that sometimes the Sox fans they just want to slam bang pick, but then you go back, and when the White Sox did what was considered to be the pick, it was the correct pick then, Andrew Vaughn. It's not the right pick. What the fuck do you want? Pick your poison, man. You're either going to get the best player in the draft, and you're going to bitch about it, or you're going to get at the time the best perceived bat in the draft, mature. And now you're seeing what happens. Nothing's guaranteed. So I think that pitchers are easier to kind of project than hitters, because pitchers can go out there and what they could, he throws hard right there. You've got spin rate. They're a far more inclined, especially at his age, to be closer to being a year or two out, as opposed to, a hitter that might still, even as a high school junior, might still need 3-4 years. So I don't know. I like it.
We've talked about just like the way that we talk about the White Sox. It just sucks so much, because every conversation you always have to go to, how are they going to build to that next good team? And the conversation always goes back to, well, they're not going to spend in free agency. And
they're fucked.
And they don't. And but that doesn't mean you're always going to be screwed. I mean, we've seen the Tampa Bay Rays have for years, for a decade, maybe a little bit longer. They're not the biggest free agent spending team, but what do? Well, they draft and develop extremely well, and then when it's time to pay up some of those players, they trade them for good value. So that's really one way. It's not,
and they're good at pinpointing guys that are just about to hit that downturn.
Exactly right. They have
good at it.
Recently, they've had a couple misses, like that Blake Snell one. I think that was a huge miss for them, but that's one way to do it. Now, I mean, I'm talking about one team out of 30, right? Because what other examples can you really think of
Marlins every 20 years?
Yeah, right. The Marlins, the Marlins, and then I still don't think they've made back-to-back playoffs. So when
the White Sox haven't in a regular season either.
So anytime you even want to say okay, it was a good move, I agree with you. I think you have to trust, and I get White Sox fans aren't trusting anything that Chris Getz in the front office is doing, but and if that's the case, then you're just fucked, because you're just gonna hate every single move, right? But you have to trust that your front office, the guys who going out there on the trips, who are putting together this list and being like, hey, we're putting together our board here. If this player is available, he is our top ranked player, you take that guy. And like you said, you don't take for need. It's an MLB draft. You're not going to do something crazy. Like a guy isn't going to come in and change your team in a couple months here, or even next year. You take the best player available. I think Hagen Smith at that point, if that's what they had on their board, I think you have to trust that philosophy. Mm-hmm. Now, because if it was the other way, that sure, the fans are happy. Hey, big lefty bat, you got power, but hey, guess what? He's only a first baseman, DH. You don't know how that's going to translate against
Joey Gallo. Do you want Joey Gallo?
You don't know how that's going to translate against MLB pitching. And then, hey, guess what? A few years later, you're still going to be kind of in the same spot.
I've heard more he's Joey Gallo than I've heard he is a left-handed Aaron Judge or a Bryce Harper. I've heard Joey Gallo. So White Sox fans, would you rather have a left-handed ace, or would you rather have Joey Gallo with your major league team? That's the question you want to ask yourself, really, because that's what you're complaining about not getting. Is a major league slugger, yes, but not an elite major league slugger, and not gonna be an elite major league slugger. Now I'm saying this on tape now, so now I'm probably gonna be fucked. He's gonna probably end up becoming like Babe Ruth, and he'll be the left-handed Hank Aaron or something. But it becomes
Jim Thome.
No, I'm not right. But it is what it is, man. You take the best, and I know
You
the White
take
Sox
the best
fans.
available.
Yeah.
I do believe in that.
And Aldo will agree.
Um,
I'm the king of knee-jerk reaction when I want to bat really badly, and the Cubs then go out and draft a fucking pitcher 2 years in a row, right when I wanted the guy that I wanted that was available both times. Montgomery is one of them, by the way, Cubs fans, and the Cubs got Jordan Wick instead. So you did get Colson Montgomery when the Cubs decided to go with arms in a draft. I think they chose didn't they draft all but like 2 of their picks were pitchers, or something
yeah,
like that?
it was
In
arm heavy
2021?
21.
Yeah. So, hey, you got a quality baseball player. Be happy. Like, period. The rest you can
By the way,
change.
quick aside here. When I was writing up the Cubs draft picks today, I noticed looking up at some tweets. So the Cubs only drafted, I don't know what the White Sox number was. But the Cubs only drafted 3 high school players, all position players, 0 high school pitchers.
Mhm.
Overall, all 30 MLB teams, 20 rounds, there were 113 high school picks, the least ever in the first 20 rounds of any draft in MLB history. What do you make of that?
I think that NIL has affected the command and sway that some of these organizations have over these ball players. So they can go to college and they can actually make a little bit of money in college with their likeness and just being a part of programs. A lot of these guys get a chance. It's not a lot for baseball because obviously baseball is much different than some of the other sports, but they can go on. And so I think Major League Baseball is now looking at saying, hey, let's get these guys go to college. The college game is as good as it's ever been right now, I think. And it allows these kids to go there, and they're not desperate because the NIL stuff exists. Back in the day, some of these kids would sign for $1,000 signing bonus, and they would get $1,500 a month with meal money, living in the room with 5 other guys just to survive.
Middle of nowhere, America.
In the middle of fucking BFE, yeah. So these guys going to college, they get fed. They're going to be in healthier shape. Let's be honest, they're probably going to eat healthier in a college system than they will in the minor league system because the colleges will provide for them the special nutrition that they need on campus. And with the minor leagues, especially the lower levels, these guys, you remember, Luis Robert, God, he was eating pizza every night. Like, remember when that whole thing when he was eating pizza, ordering like freaking Domino's every night?
The Domino's on speed dial, yeah.
Yeah, so put them on a nutritional plan with their college. Let these guys develop at that age where they need that kind of good diet and additional stuff. And it also helps them mature a little bit, and they get to play a little baseball in college, get maybe a little bit of education too. But, I'm obviously a big proponent of education. I'd love for them to go, 4 years, but, they've even, altered out some of the plans. Sophomores are able to declare now, I believe. I thought that I didn't realize that they changed that, but Cubs got a sophomore, I believe. Cam Smith. I thought he was a junior for some reason, and Cam Smith's a sophomore. I didn't realize that you could come out.
You didn't reclassify or something?
I don't know. He was a true sophomore. Like, I didn't realize. I don't know why he was eligible to come out in the draft as a sophomore. So maybe I missed some sort of rule change that allows them that you to come out then too. But it is what it is. I think that's a good part of it. I think that's good. I like the fact that there's less high school kids being. And I know the Cubs went with the South City kid here from Vegas. But I like that. I like that these more mature players are getting, because you're gonna have a quicker. It helps your farm system too. These are mature younger adults. They're not little kids. I'm sorry. No offense to a 17-year-old guy, but you just left my classroom. You're a fucking kid. Sorry. You're a kid. You're dumb. Okay. So go to college for a little bit. Go be dumb. And then that brain, that lizard brain, growing a little bit to your 20, 21, and all of a sudden you're a very different person at 21 than you are at 17, 18 years old.
And another part of that with the minor league system now is a couple years ago they eliminated the short ball season. So you have that entire roster that was just wiped out, and that's normally where you would get the high school draft picks starting off there. You just don't have that anymore.
Yep.
So let's switch over to Cam Smith, Cubs, first round pick, 14th overall. Cubs go with a hitter back-to-back years. Again, I hand up, Kevin, if you guys want to hear draft stuff, Cubs, it's Kevin. But I just saw that graphic, a couple highlights, the exit velocity off this guy's bat. I mean, that got me excited. As someone who really didn't know Cam Smith, doesn't watch a lot of college baseball, just seeing that graphic of like all his rankings and like how hard he hits the ball, the 90 percentile exit velocity. That's exciting stuff. So Kevin, give us the lowdown on Cam Smith, third baseman, Florida State.
I think I just figured out, by the way, why he was eligible. He was a 19-year-old senior in high school.
Oh, okay.
So he's 21 right now. So
we're
I
talking
wonder-
about, letting that brain develop a little. Good
Yeah.
for Cam Smith.
Yeah, but so side note on that one, because I was really wanting, I just pulled that up though. He was the best true third baseman in the draft. I know sometimes you'll draft a middle infielder and shift him over to third. Cam Smith was the number one, like, born bred third baseman. Now people keep saying he might move to first base. This guy literally, his defense at third is one of his best attributes. He's got a plus arm. He's got a cannon. Okay, of his actual scouting grades, his arm grades is a 60. His best grade is his arm. His least good grade is running. So you're not going to put a guy with a cannon out in the outfield if he's he's slower than molasses in winter. So this is a third base spot. He plays it well. He's got really good hands. He's instinctively a third baseman. His defense this year, I think defensively he posted, I think it was like a 960 or a 970 fielding percent. His freshman year was like 921 or whatever, which is still better than Morel. But he's a good defensive third baseman. But the pop. He's a big bat. He's also, he's more of a Morel personality, if you want to talk about exciting. This is a guy that's going to bat toss. This is a guy that's going to show a lot of emotion on the diamond. This guy's, I believe he's the kid that got ump-showed when he hit that home run and flung his bat towards his dugout, and the umpire kicked him out.
By the ump?
Yeah, I believe he got ump-showed with his celebration once this year. I believe he was one of the ump-show casualties. But he's a ball player, man.
Jim Edmonds.
And he starts what the Cubs seemed this year, and maybe more noticeable than years past. They went after guys that were good at their colleges, but were really, really good in the Cape.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was a very good Cape League guy at a 981 Cape OPS. He was the most outstanding pro prospect in the Cape Cod League. That's it, man. That's the cream of the crop right there for amateur athletes. Again, 6'3", 220. He's going to get bigger, I think. And that was probably the concern of some people. But again, as a third baseman, I have very little concern. His lateral movement is good. His first step and his twitch is fine. So he only needs to cover a couple steps over there and be consistent. Body up. Big frame means big body too, which means a lot of balls are going to be bounced in front of him. He's going to keep him in front and be able to make the play because he's got a cannon. So strong arm. He looks like he's going to be able to push this. And again, he's coming out of Tallahassee. He's coming out of a baseball hotbed, even though he's from, I believe, Georgia, right? Am I going crazy? What high school did he go to? I'm going crazy here.
Well, you look that up, some of the Cam Smith attributes here. This is his percentiles. Average exit velocity 90, the max exit velocity 96.
Oh, Lake Worth, Florida. Sorry.
X damage 91 percentile. Pretty damn good. Give me that. I guess the one thing that I did say was like, hey, we need to get this guy, obviously big power. He needs to start to pull the ball a little bit more because that's where you get most of your slug. And I'm sure that's going to be one thing the Cubs focus on there. But for a guy who already does a lot of damage going to all fields, pretty good bat at 14. And again, I think it's similar to a lot of the MLB draft analysts talking about this pick. It was similar to last year when the Cubs drafted Matt Shaw at 13th. Was like the Cubs got a pretty damn good college bat who could be ready in a year or two. That seems to be the case for Cam Smith as well.
So I can something that we talked about in our chat a little bit too. I want to go ahead and pull this up if I can get it to work. I saw an interesting. Now he's not Brennan Davis, but I do see Brennan Davis attributes in his swing. He's got a very different swing plane than he's not like those big swingers. He almost seems like when you look at it because of his brute power, it doesn't seem like it, but he seems almost like a slap hitter, but he's not. So like, I just want to see if I can maybe share the screen. Don't do that. Let's see here. Window. There it is. All right, share. I think that's coming up. Yes. Okay, there we go. So when you look at this guy, you see his stance. Now this is from the side, but he's balanced. His hands are out a little slight. They're actually no. His hands I think are pulled. Brennan Davis gets his hands over the plate, but he comes in quick and he's got this real quick load. Watch the load. It's really short. That's it. That's his load. His hands are already in the ready position. There's nothing. His hands are not going back. It's just straight to the baseball. And when you see that, it helps him be quick hands. But the amount of strength, look at the baseball. I mean, it's a bomb. If you're able to see this, those of you guys that are watching at home, he hit the ball over the Buster Posey sign out and left. But again, he's a big boy. I love that he wears number 24, by the way. That tells me who he likes.
He wants to be a star. He wants to be a
scary.
Ronaldo celebration right there.
Here you go. I got some. So here's some defense coming from Minnesota. But he's okay. Like I said, gets down the line all right. But there you go. Look at the defense. That's a beautiful play right there for a big guy. He's, you get body up to the line in baseball again. He's quick. He gets to the bag in time. He's not a liability. There's just running the base. That was a bad turn. Sorry. But I like the slide. Again, he pops up.
I think we can tell early on. Maybe the base running, he's not going to be known for the base.
There it is. That's the one. Ready? Watch the ump.
Oh, yeah.
You're gone. See that? See the ump show? That was the ump show right there. Watch the umpire when he hits this. Flings it and watch the ump. Okay, and you're gone.
Was the umpire like measuring hang time there? Is like if it's over 3 seconds, you're out of here? What was he doing?
I don't know. He was just like waiting for the bat to not hit anybody before he actually kicked him out. So
I'm already envisioning a Cam Smith, multi-homer game in St. Louis. Jim Edmonds having a brain aneurysm watching a bat flip. So Cam Smith, 14th overall, Florida State, third base. I did read something where the Cubs do feel confident that he will be able to stay at third. So that's good to see.
And for people that are like, what about Matt Shaw? You don't stop bringing in talent because you have somebody that's talented. You get the best players you can, and you throw as many long darts, and hopefully you throw enough shit at the board and see which one sticks. And if Matt Shaw doesn't pan out, then you got Cam Smith coming down the line. Like, this is why you do this. He's blocking. And you know what? If Matt Shaw is the real deal, you got someone worth value in the trade market too. So again, fans worry about the draft. Like, why did you draft this guy? I don't know how many times in the Discord people are like, oh my, but what about Matt Shaw? I thought Matt Shaw. This is a first round draft pick. He is not starting with the Cubs. He's starting in the minor league system. And if he earns his weight up, great problem to have. You'll figure it out then. But you don't stop drafting talent.
I always think about that World Series team for the Cubs, and then that time period in the mid 2010s. They had Addison Russell, Javier Baez. They had Starlin Castro starting, and then they had Gleyber Torres in the minor leagues. And then you get the international free agent signings. And it's like, well, why do we have all these shortstops? Where are they going to play? Things figure themselves out.
They do,
like some way or somehow. And again, like you said, you get the best player, you get the best talent. And eventually, you work guys where they need to be. And
why would you draft Matt Shaw when you just signed Dansby Swanson?
Right, yeah. That's another thing. Yeah. It's like, what? Oh, the James Transos, but you have Nico Horner. Oh, Matt Shaw, where is he going to play? Oh, now this guy, where's he going to like? It's going to be fine, guys.
So I did get a little boner juice. I'm going to say this. I hate to say this because now I'm wearing a Nico Horner shirt right now. Is the thought of Michael Busch, James Triantos, Matt Shaw, and Cam Smith as an infield is pretty fucking cool. Sorry. I don't know. And that's probably 4 years down, 5 years, maybe 4 or 5 years down the line when Michael Busch is like the old man at this point. But that would be a whole upside. That's an upside lineup, at least in the infield.
We'll get to Michael Busch a little later, but his defense, and especially this past week heading into the All-Star break, this guy looks pretty dang good. He looks like a guy who was a second baseman who's now playing first base.
Wait, I owe 2 Bushes.
Ooh.
We'll get to the Busch segment. Remind me, I'll go grab some out of the fridge since I still have that giant fucking case. 30 home runs this year. I have beer.
Good stuff from Michael Busch. Let's head over to
cool.
Let's just go off to whatever stood out to you. Either side, Cubs, White Sox, rest of the draft here. Maybe the top 10 or their first 10 rounds picks here. What do you got?
Yeah. So the Cole Mathis kid out of College of Charleston, which I know, it's a smaller school. College of Charleston does well at the D1 level. They're that small program that has always been good. So he was their second round pick. He is a big first base bat. Again, why would we draft a first baseman if we got Michael Busch? Because you get talent. The guy's a pretty good darn hitter. It's a really pretty, it's a not pretty swing, but a really, really good power numbers. When you look at his power, again, like I said, this was kind of seemed like the theme for the Cubs early on is that they took Cape Cod dominant players. This guy was second in the Cape with 11 homers. He had a 1.014 OPS for his college at College of Charleston. He is a two-way player. He had a 3.45 ERA. He's not going to pitch for the Cubs, but in blowouts, maybe we got a future guy that can go out there and carve. Can be the new Patrick Wisdom, I guess. But
You can be like David Bote, yeah. Bring him in and 10-run.
Right. Yeah, there you go. He's gap to gap. But the power usually comes center to left center. I think that's what I was reading his splits, his spray chart. But he's got plus arm strength again. Somebody said that they even listed him as a third baseman as well as a first baseman on one of the scouting cards. So who knows? Maybe this is a guy that they're like, guy's got a good arm. He's not.
Well, they just drafted Cam Smith. What are you doing? Getting in a third base.
Same speed as Cam Smith. Power, same arm. His rate he's got the same overall ratings, I guess, as Cam Smith too. He's also he's 6'1", 210. He's a mature, he's a 20-year-old who's about to turn 21 in 8 days. So, you got another good bat there. I like that pick. That one seems like it's going to be an easier sign. And then with the third overall pick in the draft, the Cubs went with Ronnie Cruz. Now, this is the one that I thought was an underslot pick. This is a guy that wasn't on anybody's radar, not a top 200. The guy was ranked as like the 30th best shortstop in the state of Florida. In his own state, he wasn't even the top 20 shortstops in the state. But he was almost a Seattle Mariners international pick. He comes over from the Dominican Republic. So interesting story there. But I believe that he'll probably sign for 300 less than his slot, maybe even less than that, because I think that the big draft pick, I think for the Cubs, was with the 4th overall pick. I know, yes, I'm biased as a Vegas boy, a kid I've seen a bunch of, and he's been a pain in my ass. Tyler Salsany from Basic High School here, and it's technically Henderson, but we'll say Southern Nevada, but he plays all over the place here in town. His brother's actually a really good ball player too, but he's a smaller guy, 5'7", 190 at this point. He's going to get bigger. His dad's a bigger guy too. He's going to Tennessee. He's going to literally go play with the defending national champions. He's the guy I think the Cubs are probably trying to ask, save a little bit of that slot money to overpay the slot to make up for that. And so, because he's a better player than Ronnie Cruz is, but there's a signability question because of Tennessee. So, but the way he's spoken of here, I'd say that you're not going to get a consensus top player in the state ever, because Gorman people will always say their people are better, even though they're not. But you can, when you talk to most people, you're going to get the general consensus that he's been the best baseball player in the state of Nevada this year, and was arguably maybe the best player last year. So he's a very, very, very good ball player. Good kid. A lot of people like him. I've heard nothing but he's not. He's not someone. Again, when you come around here and the knitting circles talks, when you got a good player in town, if the guy's a slapdick or not. This guy does not have a reputation for being a slapdick. He's got the opposite. He's a good teammate. He's a guy that wants to help everybody. He says all the right things too. And some of those kids from Basic are assholes. I'll just say this. Love playing against them because they play like dickheads. But they're chatty and chirpy. They're chirpy and unfortunately he lost his head coach this year. Got fired for we'll just say. When you get fired, for the most part, when you get fired midseason, there's really few things that you could really kind of say why. But especially when you're the best team in the state and you get fired as the head coach, it's never good. His compadre over at Gorman got fired middle of the season as well. Those guys that was the head coach and the pitching coach together at Gorman in the 2000s. So those guys all got, so South City had to deal with some adversity there. And a friend of mine who was an assistant there got hired as the head coach, and he stepped right in. And this is what makes me like Tyler or South City a little bit more. I don't want to say Tyler, it's Ty. South City a little bit more is that he was never a problem. New coach, no problem. Let's get to work. And he said that he was leading the kids back out there saying, look, yeah, we lost coach. So what? Let's go play. Season doesn't stop just because shit happened. Let's go. Love having that kind of a mentality. So I like this pick. Again, Vegas kid. I'm gonna see if I can get him on the podcast. See if Gino, his head coach, can reach out and get us in. But
you gotta get him to sign first, Kevin.
Yeah, I got him to sign first. Yeah, so I got to go throw some bows there. Gino used to be a very he's a tough guy. So Gino maybe can do some muscle on him for me. I'll pay Gino a little bit under the table or something. No, but the Cubs stayed west, man. If you look at the Cubs, look at this. Especially in the first 10 picks, you had Florida, South Carolina, Florida. Then you go Nevada, California, Louisiana, Texas, California, Kansas, Arizona, Texas. I mean, they really went hardcore West Coast. They went twice in a row to UC Santa Barbara, which is really interesting to me. Consecutive picks, 6 and 7. They took
I want to get to the 7th rounder.
I don't know how to say it. Breathauer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Special.
That 6'6", 250, 7th round pick, UC Santa Barbara. His head coach couldn't help himself talking about him. Brought up Aaron Judge.
Oh, no.
Like his own, but I think he meant more like physically. Like, hey, he's a big dude. He plays outfield. It's tough not to think about Aaron Judge, which is unfair because why would you do that to your own player?
One of the scouting reports literally listed him, and I quote, this is the full quote, absolute brute of a human being. When your scouting report calls you a brute of a human being, you're a big boy. He hit 275, 15 homers, 39 RBIs in 50 games at UC Santa Barbara, which is a Division I. They're in that California league with, I think, Fullerton and some of those other teams. So it's a decently competitive one. I have a player, our guy, Ryan Pineda, actually went to UC Santa Barbara. He was drafted in 2010 by the Athletics out of UC Santa Barbara. Great place to play for ball players. He loved it up there. But interesting, big beast guy, and then his teammate was an all-American. He was a Big West pitcher of the year. I mean, the Big West has always been a good baseball division, conference or whatever. But yeah, that's a big boy. 6'5", 6'6", 245, bat speed, arm strength, athleticism. He runs really well for his size. Does strike out a little bit more, but a lot of people believe that he has an above-average outfielder at the major league level potential. So I love that.
And that's the
Maybe
thing.
He's not a signability guy though, because he's a junior, isn't he? I mean, he's only a junior. So I mean, when you go back, you're really fucked. So he's got to sign now.
Like huge levers, like obviously big frame. So there's I'm assuming, but looking at some of the video, long swing. So like that's why he has the swing and miss. Like take care of that. Aaron Judge again. Unfair. Aaron Judge still strikes out a bit, but it's fine because he hits like 50 home runs a year. If the Cubs can figure this out just a little bit, to make a little tweak here, something with the approach, and that swing and miss cuts down just a bit. That's the pick that's exciting for me.
It just reminds me a little bit of a McGreary, like a McGreary pick, because McGreary's exciting like that. That's a fun one. You know what was really interesting? Round 5, Ariel Armas, a catcher who was one of the best defensive catchers in America, college baseball, and he literally can't hit for shit.
All right, a little Martin Maldonado action. All right.
He was projected to go somewhere in the 12th through the 20th rounds, and the Cubs took him with the 5th pick at a USD. Again, they were probably just in the area. They were at UCSD for somebody else later on in the draft, and I think who was it? UCSD they got from UCSD. UCSD, the Howback kid, was the 10th overall pick. He was just a little bit down the road. So like, hey, let's go check this other guy out. But they really did keep it kind of. That was a weird pick to me. But that
has to be a very
underslot.
I mean, that scouting report for whatever the internal cut, whoever that scout was, who sent that report. What did it say? That's like, hey, no, we can turn this guy. If he literally just wasn't doing anything at the plate, and like he's basically getting drafted on his defense alone. Either the defense is just like a Hall of Fame level, where it's like, hey, this guy just hits a little bit, we're fine. Because that's you don't see that that often.
Going for defensive catchers in the 4th, 5th round. We're really changing.
Yeah, especially that early on. Yeah.
So that was a weird one to me, but I do like the Edgar Alvarez kid, the kid out of Nicholls State. He hit 405, 13 jacks, 67 RBI, but better yet, numbers wise, he was one of the best hitters in baseball, period, in the collegiate ranks. But he's a projected third baseman against shortstop, but more than likely is projected third baseman, maybe middle infielder. But again, you go out there and you get these guys, you get these athletes, and you let them just go do their thing. And if it pans out, it's great. You never know. Was Nicholls State competition something that was just easily manipulated by his ability versus like his opponent's ability? But maybe not. And so you got that, and then you get that. You round out. You get the 9th kid. You get that righty from Lamar University out of Texas, which is brings me back to our boy. What's our lefty that Cubs drafted in 2020?
Oh man, Burl Carroll.
Yeah, Burl Carroll's from that same conference. He went to Texas Christian up there, whatever it was. But Lamar is in the
That
same.
2020 draft for the Cubs is cursed. Luke Little though, well then he got hurt right
Hey,
now. Too.
Ed Howard's actually on the up and up. My guy Ed's his arrow's going.
Ed Howard, he is stock is right. We do forget. We do young, injured, still right.
Lost the whole high school season to COVID.
Lost that high. Yep. So
his senior year. So that's maybe a little time, but that's a good one. The 10th pick again didn't move the needle much for me. Again, that was the UCSD kid, Halbach. Again, it's such a weird, a couple of the picks were these guys aren't even on radar. Most when you pull up their most of these, usually when you have a draft for, first 10 rounds, you're going to have a guy that has some sort of paper trail. And it took a while to find anything about a few of these guys because they weren't in anybody's kitchen, let alone, to be in the top 10 rounds. Then you go down to the bottom half. They got the Ashenbach kid from A&M. He's well-liked, good kid, good little ball player. Kid out of Grand Canyon University, the Atavia kid. Decent again, another arm. These are all big kids, 6'4", 200. And then you get down all the way down to this another catcher, and you get the Owen Arrows kid. So
I like the. I'm always a big name guy when it comes to MLB drafts. 18th round pick, right-handed pitcher out of Navarro College. Thomas Mangus. What a name! I just love the name Mangus.
Mangus.
No clue if he's going to be good or not, but I just love it. I hope he is. Mangus. Need Mangus.
So it's Cameron Cicero's kid the Cubs got from East Tennessee State.
Another great name.
His career, he had a 376 batting average, 729 OPS, 39 homers, and 145 RBI in his career. Lefty. Looks like at least throws lefty. In this picture.
Some of these picks, you mentioned earlier, Hayden McGeary, who I think he was playing D2 maybe?
He was playing junior college. He was playing at maybe it was D2. He was a Colorado.
Yes, Mesa, Colorado Mesa.
Colorado Mesa. Yeah. And I think
a big guy put up huge numbers. He had a great first year in the minors with the Cubs. Took a step back this year, but he's starting to get hot again. But yeah, I like this. Take the big freak physical athletes. Maybe you hit on one.
Maybe you get them into actual shape because they've been probably drinking beer at their smaller schools, doing that whole thing, and you can get these guys into a professional routine, and all of a sudden they chisel down. I mean, this guy, 6, you got some of these guys like the Hayden Frank kid, 6'6", 222. I mean, you can't teach that. You can't. That's a big boy. That's a pitcher, but still, again, big boy. Halbach, 6'3", 215. The outfielder, the Lovich kid from Kansas, 6'4", 185. That's a big frame. The Avita kid, he's a pitcher, so we'll skip that. Cicero, again, 6'2", 230. Even the catcher, 6'2", 185 is pretty big for a catcher. The Ayers kid out of Marshall. But everybody's big.
Think even the Alvarez guy. I think he was pretty big too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Cubs got going after some beef.
It's interesting, when we've the Cubs have hit. I think the Cubs have done the new draft team that they brought in after 2019. Since 2020, I feel like they've done I know that 2020 was just a 5-person draft, so it was a different draft in general. It wasn't 20 rounds, so you have far less likelihood of hitting then. But I do feel that this draft team has done an absolutely fantastic job. So I'll be curious to see how this one ages, because this one dynamically is different than any of the other drafts that they have kind of gone out with. Last year Matt Shaw was blatantly obvious. A lot of picks, down. What was it? With Horton, it was to get Jackson Ferris. You had some real maneuverability in there, and Jackson Ferris now was a trade that we now know is what got us, Michael Bush. So that's a big part of that. I'm curious how this one's going to age, because this one doesn't jump off the page. Cam Smith, think great pick. I love the Sassanini obviously pick. The Cole Mathis is a good pick. I think the like you said, the Brett Hauer kid is really interesting. But there's nothing on here that really jumps out going, hell yeah.
There's not that second guy. There's not that second or even third guy. It's like Steele, or how did they get this guy? Something like that.
Yeah.
Anything else for the White Sox? Their draft board.
Let's see. Let's pull up their draft tracker real quick. Double check.
White Sox, by the way, man. Again, not to kick them while they're down, but it just sucks that they can't draft any higher than 10th next year. They're gonna have the worst record in baseball, and they're only gonna pick 10th.
I thought the shortstop they got was pretty good.
Pretty brutal.
Michigan kid.
Sox.
Bonner.
Mhm.
He was the Michigan player, a Gatorade Player of the Year 2 years in a row. So he did, though. This is something that is probably a red flag. Sorry, Sox fans. He struggled at a lot of the showcases, which means he struggled with equal talent, which is something that I was worried about with James Triantos when he was in high school. It obviously panned out, worked out well for Triantos. So on a positive note, that concern could be overvalued. But he does have raw power, high school kid. He's got really good arm. He runs pretty fast too. So he's got a pretty good first and third. He's quicker out of the box than he looks, I think, in his 60. But they got the IMG kid, another lefty out of Florida. Actually, kid from Iowa, but he went to IMG. So he's actually from Iowa. And then they got the switch hitting outfielder, Nick McClain from Arizona State, smaller guy. But the White Sox, I mean, in their top 5 picks, all 5 of their top 5 picks were top 200 guys. So, and a 5th ranked guy with 5th pick, the 71st ranked guy with the 43rd pick, which I think is interesting, but those never will line up totally. And then, it looks like they went a lot of pitching. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So more than half of their picks were, again, arms. What's a TWP? What does that stand for? Two-way player. Oh, two-way player. Duh. Got a two-way player from Austin P, or P, however the fuck you say it.
Austin P, former OVC team.
Master P.
Shout out
Austin
the Governors.
P. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 outfielders, 1 shortstop, and a first baseman. So
that Austin P player, that's the guy who was the adoption from Russia, right?
The Lyle Miller Green guy? Yes, correct. Oh, yeah. Really interesting. Yeah, shared that with you guys today. Yeah, an Australian kid too that was taking the kid. Our first overall pick of the draft was the first Australian kid. He was an Australian kid from Oregon. But this kid was adopted. If 9/11 had happened 2 weeks earlier, he would never have been able to come to the United States. He came in 2 weeks before he was brought to the United States 2 weeks before 9/11. So yeah, really interesting story. Look that up. There's some really cool. He's 6'5", 237. He's a big boy. He will break your head. But I love it. It's a good story. This is the best part about the drafts now. As you slowly start digging into each kid, each of these guys has a story, a background, some sort of thing that they push through to get to this point, and a backstory of some kind. And that's what makes it kind of fun. And this is where you endear yourself to prospects and become, a fan. But just also when you get attached and you're like, I can't trade him. He's not worth Vlad Guerrero. No, I love him too much. But.
Have you got any replies from dads on Twitter yet?
No dads on Twitter this year. No, not yet. I haven't written anything negative though, so that's a big deal. Although
we got to get you digging into some video.
Yeah, I'll get some video, and then once we get those out there, then yeah, absolutely. It's like what was it? Jordan Wick's family loved it. I called him the hip youth pastor, and like they were all retweeting it. They thought it was hilarious. I'm like, see, that's a good joke, even though I really wasn't a big fan. But hey, that's the best part of this time, though. And these kids now are going to get an opportunity, to go after something special. And once they start signing, it gets really exciting because, they start the journey. And this is the beginning. I hate that I hate the timing of the draft. I wish it was back in June. Not a big fan of this, but it is what it is. The draft, the first round took as long as the one round of the home run derby, which is also painful. They need to maybe speed this up a little bit for the, it's not the NFL, man. These people don't know who the fuck these kids are.
Yeah.
So
I remember when they changed it, because it used to be back a month ago, like early June. And they changed it to like, it's going to be like by the All-Star weekend. It's going to kick off All-Star week. And I, at the time when they first did the change, I'm like, oh, cool. Cause like, nothing happens. There's no games until Friday, maybe a couple teams play Thursday, but it's like, you have the Derby Monday, you have the All-Star game Tuesday. in my mind, it was always going to be like, oh, you'll have like the minor league All-Star game the Wednesday. It's like, and then maybe you do something with the draft afterwards. But like it's Sunday night, okay, first couple rounds, but like it's the middle of summer. College baseball ended a month ago. The people who do watch college baseball, they're probably out of it now. You don't have the juices flowing. The hype isn't there. It's like, man, yeah, what a huge mistake. Well, why did they move the draft? It's just a complete buzzkill. Because then by the time you get to past the 10th round, you get to day 3, and like I think you were talking about on Twitter, it's like just pick. You're just seeing names. It just becomes all the same.
Mhm.
You're like, oh, I don't know, I have no idea. A guy in the 10th round is like the same as a guy in the 17th round. It's just like a name on the screen. You have no idea who these guys are. It's like kind of sucks.
Yeah, this what really sucks too is that like you'd also have these guys that were they changed the draft a few times now. Back in the day, you get drafted in June, and they own the rights to you for a whole calendar year. So you could theoretically sign before the draft after your next spring season ends with the team that drafted you. They shifted it down to I think it was like the end of the summer. I think it was like from June you had until like August 15th or something like that to sign. So they sped that up. They got rid of that. And now it's like July, they moved the draft up, and now they've pushed, they've tightened that window.
I think it's a month, right?
Yeah. So it's another way to like basically squeeze these young players into bad deals too. I mean, it sounds terrible to say that, but when you have a whole year to negotiate, you got leverage. When you don't, because it's either sign you or lose you get to those final few days, you actually have a little bit of leverage. But now it's like you got, oh, quick, come on, kid. Don't you want to be a major leaguer? Come on. Oh, the time clock's ticking. Oh, fine, I'll sign it. Give me some high chews. Fuck. And it's like, it's too late. And now they're locked into a deal that's not nearly as optimal. But that's his pitch. By the way, I didn't realize the first 2 overall picks this year in the Major League Draft were not born in the United States.
Ooh.
Chase Burns from Wake Forest was also born in Italy.
The MLB draft becoming the NBA draft. MLB baseball getting taken over.
And then not until the 15th pick from the Netherlands. Her name is Jurangelo Clintante. I don't know I'm not going to say his name right, but my God, Jurrangelo. So Jurangelo, but then it's CIJNTJE.
Oh man, we need to have Zoe say that one next.
We need someone from the Netherlands. Yeah, any Dutch here? I don't know about the Dutch. What is Dr. Evil saying about the Dutch?
Well, who was it? I think Xander Bogaerts was like on the Netherlands team with the World Baseball Classic. I think Anderson Simmons too. I think they had like a full MLB like infield for the Netherlands back in the World Baseball Classic in 2023.
Oh, Owen Casey got a Canadian kid.
Yep,
Canadian kid. Canadian born at least. But
Owen Casey, redhead. James
Dante Nori, the Phillies drafted Canadian kid.
I guess we'll shift over from draft talk now. Get back to the season here. White Sox fans, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You guys, tough year. Can't win them all, and the Sox have certainly not won a lot this year. Trade rumors. Tommy Pham getting a little bit more interest. He'll get traded, I'm sure. Paul DeJong, hey, he's hitting home runs. He'll probably get traded as well. Obviously, the big name that everyone's keeping track of is Garrett Crochet. By the way, did you see that clip of during the All-Star Media Day when they all come in and like everyone just goes to Aaron Judge? It's like Garrett Crochet is just kind of like off to the side, just like not even paid attention to. It's like, man, that's kind of a bummer. But at the same time, it's Aaron Judge, like best player in baseball, which again, Shohei Ohtani is still playing, but what Aaron Judge is doing is insane this year. I kind of lost, even though he is on our fantasy team, I kind of lost track of how great his season is. A special guy. He's going to go for 60 again. But Garrett Crochet, obviously, those trade rumors are still out there. Teams are obviously trying to be aggressive. Dodgers, try to make an offer. The Orioles, who got swept by the Cubs at home, and then they lost a couple games to the Yankees right before the All-Star break, they have to be scrambling. I'm assuming that they have to be on the phone either for Eric Fetty, or Garrett Crochet at the deadline. Probably Fetty, if they're a team that doesn't want to It seems like they're exactly like some Cubs fans. The Baltimore Orioles are the biggest prospect huggers. They don't want to trade any of those guys. But maybe if they do, it'll be for Eric Fetty and not as big of a trade package for Garrett Crochet. Now for the Cubs, they head into the All-Star break 8-3. They had that tough doubleheader sweep on Saturday, right before the break against the Cardinals, but then PCA hits 2 home runs on Sunday. Cubs bounce back. I think they hit 6 home runs that game, so that was good to see. Finally some power up and down the lineup. I think they're 47-51, 3.5 games out of that third wild card spot. I mean, they're still 9, 10 games back in the Central, so that's still. I'm not gonna start that conversation about the division. But the wild card is very much within reach. The trade deadline is in 2 weeks. The Cubs are doing the exact same thing they did last year, where everyone thought it's like, oh well, they're fucked. They're underachieving. They're gonna trade Cody Bellinger. They'll trade these other guys at the deadline. They'll trade Stroman. They didn't. They get on a run. They end up falling short, 83 wins. But this year, Kevin, more optimism that they can actually get on a good run and maintain it deep into September? Or no? Or are you still not on board yet? Do you need to see more? Were these past, what was it, like 2 weeks not enough to bring you all the way back in?
I don't think they have any fucking thing to sell. You can't sell anything. Like,
That's
what
true.
are they gonna sell? Like,
I think that's the bigger point.
You've got 4 tradable guys out of the entire roster. Everybody else has no trade clauses, and
but Cody Bellinger got hurt. He's probably not going to be back.
Yeah, he's going to be back for like 2 days before the deadline. So, hooray for me! I'll probably get to keep Belly because he'll opt in because he's not going to opt out after that mediocre every year. He's going to take that next year. Woohoo for me! Sorry about your finger, but just hang on like 3 more weeks, Cody, and then we'll come on back. Talkman can cover for you until then. But the only players that have no trade clauses are Nico, Morel, Justin Steele, and who am I forgetting? There's one more. That's actually tradable.
Tyon maybe?
No, Tyon's got a limited no trade clause.
Okay.
Seiya's got the no trade clause. Hap's got the no trade clause. Bush doesn't have a no trade clause, but I wouldn't include him on that anyway. Belly doesn't have so it's Belly, Horner, Morel,
Steele.
And Steele. Yeah, those 4 guys. And then Wisdom, but nobody's calling. So so it's here's me. Just fuck it, go for it. Like don't go crazy for it, but you've seen some signs of life and you see that there are things that the Cubs need. Now, this would be a prime opportunity, in my opinion, for the Cubs to go after using their prospect capital, a player that has additional team control, is in those peak years now. So they're already a good established major leaguer, primed for being another big guy in the lineup. This is why I love the Vlad. I'm sorry, I love the Vlad thing. I don't care. Is you could have Vlad Guerrero, he's the same age as Christopher Morel. People forget he's not. Everyone's like he's on his downturn. I'm like, is Morel on his downturn? Same age, bro. Like, nah, he's in the All-Star game and look at his numbers. So a guy like that with another year or 2 of team control would be great. Luis Robert, I would still love if the Sox would be willing to part with him. But this is where you maybe go after a guy that's not just like a gap filler. You're going to use this opportunity that teams are selling because they want to sell to maybe snag somebody that's going to be beyond this year, an additional year contribution, in return giving up some prospects that have some pretty good ceilings. But in the end, you've got an established major leaguer that can really help. And I think that they could help this season too. But there's always going to be like an adjustment period for anybody that you bring on. So I don't want Pete Alonso. That ship is so dead and sunken. It's gone.
Fraud. Pete Alonso.
Fraud. Yes, fraud. Not really. I mean, still decent.
He's still. That is one guy, the Mets, who everyone thought's like, oh, well, the Mets, it's going to come July. They're going to sell. Pete Alonso is going to go to a contender. Then he'll sign a huge deal. The Mets are contending. I do believe they're a couple of games above 500. They're in that wild card picture too. Pete Alonso, they're not doing it because of Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso has been struggling the whole year. He has what, his home run total is in the teens, maybe close to 20. He hasn't had anything close to a special year. I remember during the home run derby, I tweeted out, like, I can see the Angels are just going to overpay for him, and we're all going to be like, and there goes his career. Just every big free agent that kind of just like nosedives goes to the Angels in my mind, and I could see that matchup playing in the offseason. But like you said, yeah, I think Vlad. I know a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Vlad and what what caliber type of player that he is. I have no idea what I had in my mind that I thought Vlad's numbers weren't as good as they were in previous seasons. Not that I thought that he was like on a downturn, but I thought that his slugging numbers were down. But he still had decent amount of home runs. So I don't know what Yankees Twitter bubble I got into that I thought that Vlad wasn't as good as he has been. Now Michael Busch has been better, but that's a different point.
He's hitting 318 with.
No, he's fantastic.
What is he? What is he at? What's his stats? Hold on, I need to. Shit. He's hitting 288 with 14 homers, 55 RBI, and an 815 OPS. That's put that in the Cubs lineup at the 4 spot. Put Belly behind him.
He'd be fantastic at the DH because again you have Michael Busch at first. But again,
it's
that 815. It's that 815 OPS because we think of his big year. Was his big year 21?
Let's see.
Or I think that was his big year, maybe
21. Yeah, the 1.02.
Yeah, so like I have that in my mind. It's like, oh well, he has been close to that, but like, okay, it's fine. He's still a good player. Yes,
you'd want him. Best year statistically that he's ever had. Second best year. Yeah. This in 2022 are basically a neck and neck right now.
So yeah, but that's what I keep reading though, because apparently the Blue Jays, they're kind of like, no, we're gonna keep him. they're him and Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette, tough season. You want to talk about tough season? That guy has not helped himself at all. He's a guy who will be a free agent after next year as well, right? But yeah, no, Vlad, he would be a good piece, but I don't know if the Blue Jays. I think the Blue Jays are going to hold on to him. I want your thoughts on this, Kevin. We've been talking about it for. I think it started to pop up like in May when the rest of the lineup was all slumping, and then the Cubs weren't getting anything from their catcher spot. They DFA'd Yan Gomes. He's out of there. They signed Tomas Nido. He hasn't been good. He's been at least at the plate. I think defensively he has been an upgrade over Yan Gomes, but you're not really getting anything from Tomas Nido. Even though he did hit a home run on Sunday, heading into the break against the Cardinals. Do you still go after a catcher in the trade market? How do you feel about them adjusting to a new pitching staff? Do you write it out? Miguel Amaya, supposedly he made adjustments at the plate. He did hit a little better heading into the break. Do you believe in those adjustments, or do you still want Elias Diaz out of Colorado, or do you target Danny Jansen from the Blue Jays, or do you hold with Nido and Amaya?
I personally, if the Cubs go after a bigger bat, if they go after a bat that can supplement the loss of that bat in that spot in the lineup for the catcher's position, I'd rather have Amaya keep going. He's calling great games. He's doing a great job. He's handling these pitchers really well. Say what you want about Kyle Hendricks and the fact that he's been getting shellacked most of the season. He 100% has been crediting the job that Amaya has done behind the plate. Yeah, I know fans want more guys being thrown out. Guess what? Not going to happen. Major League Baseball changed the rules so that everybody can steal a fucking base, even fat guys that are slow. Okay? They made the bases bigger. They changed the pickoff rules. Stop getting on the catchers for not throwing guys out when the league literally made it almost impossible to throw anybody out that runs at least a 4.6 40. So I think that you can. I'd rather have, again, go back to the fucking the old school thing. Have a hitter that catcher that is a fantastic catcher that might hit 180. It's fine. Hide him in the 8th spot or 9th spot. Probably the 8th spot, and then go get bats that are big enough to at least reduce that over the mean of the average. And so, you get a guy that can make up for the bat struggles that Amaya has, and maybe he catches fire here and there. He does. He has shown the ability to do it here and there. Then you can actually say, I'd rather just have a guy that, because guess what? You're going to lose runs the other way instead. If you lose a catcher that's handling a pitching staff really well, you might gain a couple offensive runs, but maybe you're giving up more runs too. So I say they stick with Maya. I don't think the catcher's position right now at this moment needs to be overhauled. I think that you're starting to see the first full major league season for Miguel Amaya. He's knock on wood, stayed healthy. He's shown a lot of good things for a catcher, and in the offseason, then it's something you can revisit again. But I don't think that should be the number one priority. The number one priority should be getting a bat that is consistent enough, specifically out, especially the third base spot. And shortstop looks like it's maybe coming back a little bit. Dansby had a good little finish towards the All-Star break. Maybe he's adjusting to whatever he's been going through, but I don't know. It seems like you got a bunch of okay hitters. All of them. They're like just all okay. There's nobody that's now we're starting to see it a little bit with Bush. Obviously, Sea's having a pretty nice run right here too. But there's no one where you're like, oh fuck, I don't want to face that guy.
Ian Happ. Ian Happ has like 1,000 OPS in like 2 months.
Cardinals especially. Well, they played the Cardinals, but no. Here's me. Ian Happ would be a guy to sell high right now. I hate to say that, but he's got a no trade clause, so you can't. So, but
even him, his deal is short. I think he only has 2 more years after this year. But he is Ian Happ. Who did I see him compared to recently? Like Aramis Ramirez type, where at the end of his career, you're gonna look back and be like, "Oh wow, this guy was actually pretty damn good." Yeah, underappreciated guy, who would go on some tear. That's what sucks. Like some of these guys, they are streaky hitters. Like Ian Happ is a streaky hitter. Seiya Suzuki has been a streaky hitter. But damn, I mean that when they get hot, that still counts too. Like and it takes over from their slumps.
So we're in Palm Springs, and I was a little drunk, and we were by the pool, and we smoked a big old joint, and you get all up in your own head. And I started to think about that idea. Like the Cubs have a bunch of guys that are really good streaky hitters when they're streaking. Like, how do you put together? This is me being stoned as shit, trying to think cosmically. How do you cosmically align all of these streaky guys so that they don't all go on shit streaks together? Or do you want them all to go on shit streaks together so that the hot streaks
are all hot
together? Yeah. So how do you build a team that has that cohesive unity where they're playing such good baseball but I think obviously you want to have someone that you don't want to have everybody on the same period cycle, guys. You want guys that are going to fill in when other guys aren't. So you have to have those guys that have their ups when someone has their down, because then it reduces the hit that someone having a down couple weeks, has to endure as well. So if you could find, this is what maybe Jed hasn't done well, is that he hasn't put together guys that streak, that he put together a bunch of people that are both all having their period at the same time. And I hate to be crass about that. Sorry about that. But it's the only thing I can really equate it to. They're all on the same cycle together, and they're all slumping together, it seems, most of the time. And they're all hot at the same time.
I think that's what really sucks about this year's, about Cody Bellinger's season this year. And maybe it is because of that rib fracture. Remember, we all thought it was weird that he came back in 2 weeks, and we're like, from a broken rib? What? That's at least a month injury. He came back. Is that he's been fairly consistent, hitting wise, average wise. He's hitting close to 280. He's not hitting for power, but it's just he's been the consistent guy, but not in the way that the Cubs needed consistency. They needed him to be the consistent, the guy that we saw last June into July, August.
They needed 20 home runs by now at the All-Star break, and they got 9 and 37. 9.
And then the other guy, obviously,
41 OPS from him. You'd expect it to be about 800. That's what you want.
And then you're getting another guy. We're talking about consistent. We were getting the wrong type of consistency with Christopher Morel. It's hey, the walk rate is fantastic, right? It's hey, you got it above 10% or near that for this year. You're getting that. You're not hitting. It sucks, right? He's hitting 200 into the break, but his on base percentage is 100 points higher than that. Okay, fine. But that's not what the Cubs need from him either. They needed slug from him, and that's what sucked through that May into June, and that's what sucked that this year. Last year in 2023, when we were all doom and gloom, it was middle of June, and then it stopped. Cubs broke out of it. Mm-hmm. They started playing well together, and then they ended the year top 6 offense. It's okay, bam. You were heading into 2024. The offense should. They're not the Dodgers, they're not the Braves, but they're good. It's going to be a good offense. And this year, like you said, everyone just slopping.
They
And,
caught
like,
lightning in the bottle last year.
the timely hitting. Ugh,
Yep, the timely hitting. That's huge.
that's what it is. It's the
And
timely hitting.
look, I'm going to say this, and I know you might. I think you probably do actually disagree with me on this, but I'm absolutely, and this is old man yelling at the cloud. I am fed up with the God. Christopher Morel's been so unlucky this year. It's been 96 fucking games. Okay, bad luck is 2 to 3 weeks. Okay. League figured you out in some way, shape, or form, whether or not you know what it is that they figured out. If they knew what it was, don't you think they'd fix it and they'd work on it? The league knows something about Christopher Morel. It's not bad luck. They know how to pitch to him. The sequencing is the same. Like I said, we talked about it before. When I got to go to the Cub game, one of the big things that I like to do is I isolate. And so when Christopher Morel was up, every single at bat, I isolated on the defense. I didn't pay two shits what was going on in the box. They move every pitch. Now, if you watch a ball game, if you're at Wrigley, next time you're at Wrigley and you watch the Cubs play, watch how frequently the defense aligns and moves around every at bat, pre-pitch, every pitch with Christopher Morel versus an Ian Happ or a Cody Bellinger. They're literally giving away almost their pitch sequencing because the defense at the last second is also moving, and they're moving to their spot. And this is why you're getting those soft away rollovers to third, to the left side. This is where you're getting pissers hit dead center using the entire ballpark, caught at the warning track. They're getting to the point where they're minimizing. They're allowing him to get full strength into his swing, but they know exactly where to locate the ball, where his full strength isn't going to carry enough to make a difference. He might hit the piss out of it, but it's what we call a loud out. And this is what shifts used to do. And now, look, they can shift some. It's obviously more controlled, but they have been shifting. They've been moving around, and he's hitting hard baseballs into a more watered down version of the old shift. But it's not. There's no such thing as bad luck after 312 at bats or 341 at bats. It's called a blueprint now at this point. It's pattern behavior. So whatever's happening with Morel, and again, you see it too because he hits mistakes. If someone misses their spot, he's going to make them pay. He makes them pay usually most of the time. And that's where you see those absolute just majestic bombers that we love to see from him. The problem is he's probably not going to be able to figure out what's going on until the offseason. It's kind of like Wisdom. When Wisdom finally got figured out, Wisdom had a hard time mid-season making adjustments. He does great in the offseason, comes out, plays really well in April, and then they figure it out again. And then sometimes it's just hard to fix for these guys what that is. Now, Morel is not Wisdom, although their OPS is basically the same. But there's something, it's not just, it's so weak dick to just blame it on bad luck. It's excuse making at this point. He's almost played 100 games this year. So that's a really interesting thing to see. He is also, though, an adjustment or two away from being a freak show. So that's what's hard. We're chasing a dragon here because I'm not going to be out on Morel at all, but he probably would have had high value. He was kind of like Schwarber in like summer of like July of 2020 or whatever it was when he was absolutely just on fire and the Cubs could have traded him, didn't, and then he went cold.
Would have been after 2019.
2019, that's what it was. Yeah, remember we talked about it on the show. I'm like, sell high.
Because the Cubs took they had that shortened 2020 year when he sucked. Well, like all those guys sucked, and they're like, well,
let him walk.
We gotta save $8 million or whatever it was.
It'd be stupid to trade Morel now because he's at dead.
Oh yeah, you can. Well, and I think this came up a couple weeks ago too with like that Mariners thing with Nico Horner. It's like that doesn't make sense either.
Yeah.
Like why would you trade Nico Horner at his lowest value when he was hitting, like at the time he was still struggling?
You don't sell just to sell. You don't sell just to sell. You don't.
Yeah. I think that's the bigger point when we see this. It's like, man, it is. I remember. So when the Cubs were starting to get into this run, and they have that phenomenal sweep in Baltimore, and they beat their ass. They outscored them 21-2.
Every facet of the game.
Yeah, like each game it was like 12 hits to 4, like some like double-digit hits, like almost every game that series. And seeing some Cubs fans be like, "Oh, great! Now they're not gonna, or great! Now we're gonna keep these guys, and we're not gonna sell you." It's like, man, what kind of loser talk is that? Like, what are you guys talking? I don't understand. And again, it's a small sect of the fan base, but man, do some of these fans love the next year, or like love the, I don't even know what it is. Love the longevity of down the road will be
Kicking the
good.
can.
I
It's
don't
magic
get that.
beans. It's magic beans. It's, you know what it is that because Marquee Network and the Cubs organization spent so much in marketing and optics from like 2019, 20 into 21, really loosening up the fan base on the idea of, hey, maybe we should sell to, getting, and then, yeah, great job in 2021. Look at the halls. And then 2022, look at these halls. We're like, it's like a couple years later now, everyone's conditioned. I can't wait for this year's sell-off. I'm excited to see what Jed brings home this year from the grocery store.
I blame the 2016 Cubs for winning with all that homegrown talent.
Yeah, everyone thinks that's normal. It's like so not normal, like abnormal. But the Braves maybe a little bit, but other than that, the Dodgers are sort of homegrown. But
you always need a good mix. Yeah, because what that team had that this team doesn't. I was looking back at some numbers on Fangraphs, and I didn't realize. Again, this is another guy who I underappreciated when he was here. I know he's beloved and also for me, but I underappreciated his offensive numbers. Was Anthony Rizzo? Anthony Rizzo was like a top 3, top 4 first baseman, Major League Baseball. And then you had Chris Bryant, who was like, top 2, top 3 third baseman. And the Cubs just don't have that right now. But maybe Michael Busch. Now we just need Michael Busch to get someone else, that second guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, maybe Ian Happ keeps it going. Maybe Seiya Suzuki keeps it going. Maybe there's a trade from video. But that's what we've been talking about this past offseason. It's like they are missing that star hitter, that star potential, that top at his position player. Maybe Michael Busch is one of those guys, and then hopefully, whether it is one of these young guys, one of the prospects, or via trade or a free agent, Juan Soto, hopefully they do get that second piece because they don't have it yet. Or maybe Ian Happ just has like a Christian Yelich type year. How about we just have that?
But the maybes are what Jed and the front office sells us as the magic beans. It's always the what if instead of the let's get a guy that's just the it. Like we don't have to.
This is what we have.
Forget it.
This is what we have to work for right now, or work with right now. Yeah, it sucks. Like it sucks. Yeah. Like,
and I do see this. Like,
maybe
I'm not like again. So maybe it was. I think it probably has to do with a little bit of the magic of going to Wrigley and seeing 3 games, in 5 days and. Getting to do the bleacher stuff and just again, it's like crack. I didn't smoke crack in the bleachers, but it's basically like crack. Thank you, Mai Tai guy, by the way. I don't know if I've said it on the show yet, but thank you for like fucking Jesus Christ, the crack not so much, but the burrito especially and all the Mai Tais. That guy is a class act anyway. I was like his personal guest in that special seat that no one will sit in because it's his. I was allowed there, and of course he's like, well, this is. I know that there's a little block. Is it like 5:30? I think it is the 5:30 or whatever. I cannot go to the left of that. That is legitimately his. So I know that I learned. But great dude, man, and fantastic experience. But maybe it was because going out there and experiencing that and being around those guys, being just that. Wrigley is like the ultimate aphrodisiac for baseball nuts. Like it's just perfect out there. I was sweaty, horrible mess. And it was the greatest time ever. And now, but I went in there with an optimism. I've been pretty optimistic this season, despite all the troubles. I've actually never left. But I do think that this team has the potential to go on little runs. Like, again, if the Mets with their fucking grimace can do it, the Cubs have just as much ability to do something like that. And we talk about it. The Mets have probably peaked a little bit too early now. Honestly, they peaked and then they hit the All-Star break. Bad idea, man. You want to peak sometime in late August. So, with the Cubs being 3.5 games out of the wild card, I think that this is a good opportunity. I think you add stuff enough, but don't sell the farm. But I think that this team, as is, like you said, it's missing another, a 1-2 punch. You want to have like a left-right combo, and if they were to add a left-right combo, awesome. If someone steps up and becomes that left-right combo along with Busch, even better because it comes at less cost. Or you get again, this is the problem. Like we talked about it before the season started. You don't bank on a guy like Busch doing this, right? You allow him to suffer, struggle, come back. You give him safety nets. And we did say like towards the end of the summer, you probably start seeing the fruits of this process, and he's doing it. But you need more than that. And you can't say, hey, I'm going to bring up Owen Casey and he's going to save the day. That's not fair. It's the same thing you have to apply to Michael Busch in February and March. No, first cup of coffee. So it has to be an established major leaguer. It's not going to be some guy that you bring up. It's not as much as I'd love for it to be Matt Shaw. It's not going to be Matt Shaw saving the day. Matt Shaw can come up and contribute. Matt Shaw to me is indicative more of Christopher Morel. If you're going to have a guy playing third with mediocre defense, it's like a -9 defensive, analytics. You might as well just bring up another guy that's going to have better defense, hit fairly the same, I think, and see what he's got. But I don't think I had a little birdie tell me that they thought that he was coming up after the All-Star break. That doesn't look like it's happening. That sucks. But I always thought that he was going to be sometime early to mid-August. But we have to see this play out. But I just think the Cubs there's enough in the room for the Cubs to at least be a wild card team. I still think that to this moment, even this team currently. And I think if you eliminate the bullpen issues, just fix the bullpen. Fix the bullpen and cut the blown saves in half, and you've got 8 more wins or 9 more wins. So
speaking of the bullpen, I know they did blow the that nightcap Saturday night. Porter Hodge had some issues there in the 8th inning. The bullpen since June has been pretty good. Porter Hodge, young guy who came up. Hector Neris, who had those like that week of blown games, against Tampa Bay, San Francisco. I think he's at like 7 straight scoreless outings. Good for him. Walking Fury guys. Thank God.
He just can't not
right? Because
he can't have a clean fucking inning.
He cannot. I mean, no matter what. Like, let me tell you this, guys.
Someone's gonna get on.
Hector Neris could pitch he could go on a streak until like September, like the end of the year. He could have like 30 straight appearances of scoreless innings. I'm still not going to be comfortable when he comes.
Playing with fire, and he's like literally a walking Valium. He's on. Oh fuck! All right, well I think we're gonna probably win this, but I need to take my anxiety meds because this is gonna be buckle up, kids. This is
that Friday game when with the Cubs had the rookie and Hunter Biggie, and he had control issues. The lead got down to 5-1. It was like bases loaded, 1 out. I was like, oh god. But hey, Hector Neris, bang, got out of it. No runs allowed. I do want to shout out. Oh, speaking of the bullpen, though, one more thing before I get to the offense. Julian Merriweather, who was fantastic last year, he only pitched 4 times this year. He also got a rib fracture. I don't know what's up with all these broken ribs on the Cubs, but he's going to come back. I think the Cubs option Daniel Palencia. They made that move Tuesday. Merriweather's been rehabbing. He was at AAA Iowa last week. He's throwing in Arizona this week. I think he's going to be activated for the second half here. I think that's going to be a huge arm. I hope that he's healthy now, finally, and will stay up for good because he was really damn good once he got going last year. And then offensively, I do want to shout out these. We keep talking about like the offense. Michael Busch. Can they get that second guy who gets hot and stays hot? I think that's the important part, right? That they have to stay hot. We've talked about Happ, Suzuki. They can get on hot streaks, but then they go cold for a couple weeks, and you're like, damn, really needed at least a hit here and there. But starting the second half here, Michael Busch in the National League ranks 13th overall with a 132 WRC plus. Ian Happ is 18th at 130. Seiya Suzuki 21st at 128. Out of those 3 guys, who do you think maintains that for the rest of the year? We talked about Michael Busch, rookie, high expectations for that guy to be your best hitter. So I don't think it's going to be Busch. But do you? Or do you think it's going to be Happ or Suzuki? Who maintains this good, solid 100-game stretch here?
I think it's Busch. I think it's.
You think it's Busch? Okay.
I think that Happ will cool. I think that Suzuki does this. This is what he does. This is Seiya's kind of MO. He's an up and down. When he's really, really good, he's going to be really, really good. Remember, he was benched last year and then came back and got freaking hot. Yeah. So he was so bad that he actually had to sit for a few days to see a different angle of the field. And so I think that he's going to do that again. I think it happens. But, there's been way too much made about his defense out there too in right field. I'm sorry. Like he's fine out there. There's been a couple doo-doos.
He is fine, but no, that's the thing. We've seen it. I think you saw it with Zoe at the White Sox game. Luis Robert Jr. will just drop some fly balls.
Saw it with my own eyes.
That's what Seiya Suzuki does too.
That one was really bad. The one that the clank.
Yeah, and like Seiya Suzuki, this going back, like I remember one in LA when Keegan Thompson was starting, that kind of screwed up Thompson's start. He's done it with Justin Steele starting a couple times this year. There was that one where he almost took off Nico's head trying to get the ball when Nico was calling
That's what I
for
was
it.
going to bring up actually, because that one
That one was rough because Nico, who doesn't like team guy, he's not going to show anybody up. He was visibly pissed off.
What I was going to say is when you see the body language of their teammates after the close calls, when you see the guy that thinks that no one's watching and they roll their eyes, they're like, God, fucking dude, finally learn a lesson, will you please? I'm tired of this. Because it seems like maybe it happens a little bit more even when they're working on like situations or something at practice. This has been like a running problem.
Because the thing, you're right. Seiya Suzuki has a good arm in right field. He actually measures out, and then this goes back to last year too. He gets good jumps on fly balls. Like he'll get to some balls like at the warning track in the gap. But just some of the routine fly balls, like we all remember that play in Atlanta at the end of September from last year. And unfortunately, that kind of keeps happening like once every couple weeks. I don't know. Does he have the yips somehow? Well, catching the ball? What the hell is it? He looks like me trying to catch a ball out there. I'm like fighting for my life trying to get under the ball. I don't know what it is. It's weird. It's just weird. I don't know what the hell it is. It's him. It's Hector Neris pitching and Seiya Suzuki catching a routine fly ball. It's like the same amount of anxiety that I get.
He's the new Brant Brown. No. You know, that's another thing too, is like with that outfield. This is why, again, Bellinger is so effective. I mean, Pete Crow Armstrong, by the way, has graded out as the top defensive center fielder in baseball. Did you see that number today that came out? Did you share it? Did you not share it? I thought you shared it maybe even. So they did like of qualified outfielders or by position, like runs saved by whatever. And it's Pete Crow Armstrong was the major league leader. Let's see here. Hold on. I'll find it because it was actually a really very good company to be with. So it's funny because, again, Belly has been playing.
I got it here. From SIS Baseball, MLB defensive runs saved leaders. This is by position. And Pete Crow Armstrong, who's only played half the year, is the leader for all center fielders.
Yeah, there it is. Defensive run saves. Yep.
No, PCA's defense has been as good as advertised. And like, I think, I forget if it was Fangraphs or MLB Pipeline or one of the other prospect publications that gave him the 80 grade defense. And people were like, whoa, like that doesn't happen often. But he has very much been the elite defensive presence in center field. And hey, he fucking hit 2 home runs against the Cardinals, so that was good to see.
So I think everyone knows now where you don't want to miss. Now you want to you totally want to drop one on that back left foot for him because you throw that well, he's done. But if you leave that ball about 6 to 8 inches off the ground in the zone, the way that they did, those spinners are gonna go. Those spinners he can hit, and that's what I loved. They made a mistake. And that is what you do to mistakes when you're a major league hitter. And I was very proud of him for that.
That
2 bombs.
And like that's the thing with him. It's like we talk about it with Dansby Swanson. It's like, hey, we don't need you to be a superstar hitter because your value comes with your defense at a premium position. Just hit something, be average at least, and you are going to be a great player on this team. And that's Pete Crow Armstrong. I mean, on the bases, I think he's perfect. Stealing bases, 17 for or 18 for 18, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
He still hasn't been caught. Again, we're talking about he's played half the year, but he has the most defensive runs saved in center field. Hey, you guys love bunting? This guy loves to bunt. I hate it. I hate it sometimes, but it's exciting when he gets on base. So
he's still learning to know when to do it. He's done it a couple like no. But
yeah, there's been a couple like 2 outs swing position. It's like why are you bunting here?
But he still
that can get annoying. But
that puts pressure on the defense, man. As long as he gets it down. But also, and people forget this: showing bunt isn't necessarily just to get a bunt down. Showing bunt also draws in your defense and makes them realign based on the concern of a guy putting one down, which also then increases your ability to punch a baseball through the infield. So showing bunt is also a way if they're deepened up on you and you see that opportunity, especially a guy like Pete Crow with his speed, and they're daring you to do it. worst case scenario is you go after it and you miss, but now the next pitch, they're going to be drawn in, they're going to be playing on the cut, and a hard strafer towards third is going to sneak by him down the line. Now, that wouldn't have snuck by him down the line had you not have shown bunt. So there's benefits to that as well, but he does need to learn, like, when you got guys on second, first and second, 2 outs, bro, just fucking hit a double. Please, just hit a double. I'm good with that. That's not the time to draw in the infield. You're not playing station to station.
I think that just us talking about his hitting or him at the plate, his approach, the biggest thing that everyone's noticed now that he's actually getting playing time this year, this guy needs to stop swinging at every single pitch. He's swinging at like 70% of the pitches that he sees. Every count is like 0-2. It doesn't matter if the ball's in the dirt, high, low. It's just swing, foul ball, swing and a miss, 0-2, and like bam, you're in a hole. Hey, it was great that he got to those breaking balls low, and he got the barrel of bat on those and golfed those balls out. But again, those were 2 more swings on balls well out of the strike zone. And I forget who tweeted out a week ago or so. I don't know if it was at Cubs Prospects, Brian Smith, or someone else, but he put up the leaderboard of like guys who swing, who have the highest swing percentages, and like the top like 10 to 15 names on that were all players who are bad hitters. And Pete Crow Armstrong was like 1 or 2 on that list. Swinging more is not good. You need better swing decisions. That's what. And hey, this is part of the struggle of what we're kind of expected. But that is an adjustment that he's going to have to make. Hey, man, somebody has to get in his ear. Take a pitch once in a while.
Did you see what I saw, by the way? Although I'm not sure. I don't even think I've even brought this up. It felt like for a second there, while Pete Crow Armstrong was struggling at the plate specifically, while still playing absolutely fantastic defense, running the bases, doing all those other things really well away from the baseball, which I love. Did it feel like some of the Cubs media was starting to selling us on the reality that this is who Pete Crow Armstrong is? A great defensive outfielder, a great base runner. But if you thought he was going to be a 280 30 home run year a guy, you must not have been paying attention these last few years. And I'm like, no, it feels like he's 100% been plugged to be a guy that's going to hit 300 and go out there and hit gap to gap and drive in a bunch of runs and hit a bunch of extra base hits. 100% wasn't sold that he was a defensive stud that didn't really hit well. But it felt like Chicago media was kind of like turning that corner and going, well, no, this is who he always has been. I don't know, what are you surprised about? And
I think that pushback came from that one quote from was it Heyman or I think it was Nightingale had it in one of his Sunday notebooks. I think it was a quote from a scout that was like, "Oh, scouts are realizing that they were right, that Pete Armstrong was always going to struggle at the plate, or he was never going to be the good player that the Cubs thought," or something like that. And like I think that's where that initial pushback came from. But yeah, I do agree with you. Like, no one thought he was going to be Billy Hamilton either.
That's whoa. Like,
So
180. No.
That's also weird too. But like again, he's 22. I think he's spent less than 40 games at AAA. Maybe
he's also his name is so long that it doesn't actually fit on his line on the stat on MLB.com. It says Dansby Swanson and it says 13 Pete. Like Crow Armstrong is the second space, and it's half of it's cut off, and then 14 Miguel Amaya, and it's actually pretty funny.
The Cubs playing back-to-back series in Baltimore and then St. Louis in those horrible, humid, muggy weather towns in the middle of July just really did expose how horrible the uniforms are this year. Because it's like the Cubs are wearing like they're gray. They're supposed to be gray, but guys are just sweating through it. It looks like a baby blue out there.
It's like a yellow heat because you got all that like residue sweat, so it's like a yellow tint to it.
Those what a disaster those are. But PCA again, it's not much. I think it's only like an 87 WRC plus, but it's better than the 50 that he was.
He's at a 582 OPS. That's not great, but he did hit and that's what after hitting those 2 home runs in one game. So I mean, you take away those 2 home runs, look at his OPS. It's probably like, pew. But
no, he's a
rookie.
He's not been good.
That's why you don't bank on rookies. This is okay. If you have a healthy, functioning baseball team, that has dudes that are getting it done, that are veterans all around him, and a guy like Michael Bush figuring it out like this. A guy like Pete Crow Armstrong should be. He is such a hard fucking last name to say. Or PCA. I'm just going to because I feel like I'm saying Pete Crow Armstrong. PCA is I don't know. I just hate saying PCA too because he should see a new barber after that fucking haircut. But anyway, Armstrong, Crow Armstrong, Peter, whatever the fuck we want to call him, that guy, is a speedy, fast, the kind of guy that you do expect him to create havoc. And I think that what the expectation is with him and his personality, I think that this is what allows him to struggle, grow. Again, still 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And with a healthy team, with guys that are producing, that are veterans, a guy like I said, with Michael Bush, guys like Crow Armstrong can struggle a little bit and still get their cup of coffee. The problem is everybody's been so not great, mediocre to average, that now everyone feels like he should be some sort of fucking savior, and he's not. Of all the people that are playing every day, Pete Crow Armstrong and Miguel Amaya are the 2 least needed to be your heroes. They're the ones that are they're the Robins to your Batmans. Plenty of Batmen on the roster that can do that job. These guys are Robin for the time being until they grow into their, whatever. What's his Nightwing or whatever the fuck it is? I don't know. I'm not a big comic guy in that sense, but Robin becomes Batwing or Nightwing, or the Batwing is that's from Waiting. That's different. You don't want to see that one. Anyway, but it's so veiny. But
Nightcrawler, good movie.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. What did I watch? I watched, I know, a total ADHD here. I went 2 days in a row. I saw Longlegs on Monday, and then yesterday I saw Maxine on Tuesday. Both 2 really fucking good, like not horror, but horror films. Like
did
more like
Longlegs live up to the hype?
Yep, 100%. Okay. But not Nicolas Cage. He was creepy as fuck, sure. But the performance is what's her name? The lead actress is fantastic. Yeah, and it's a very Silence of the Lambs 7.
Okay.
That has a little bit of a supernatural. It felt like it was like 7, Silence of the Lambs, Rosemary's Baby, The Omen, and then Annabelle, all kind of like rolled into a late 70s style cinema. A lot of the film is they use the 4:3 aspect ratio, so the screen is tighter, and it looks like it's like on a projector. Even the opening and closing credits, the closing credits go backwards. Like we're so used to them going one way, they go the other way. So it's even creepy at the credits. And then Maxine, if you've seen the X trilogy, X, Pearl, and this is my favorite one because it's really more like, again, it's a detective, gritty 80s. It's like shot with like James Cameron's Terminator lens, and it's basically like Body Double meets again like an 80s murder mystery. Like it's incredibly good. Like I loved it. I
remember watching X and Pearl. Those who's Mia Goth, fantastic. I try to watch all the movies that she's in.
Yeah,
great actor.
So if you haven't seen the trilogy, by the way, X is like Texas Chainsaw Massacre genre, like late 70s slasher film, and then Pearl is the golden age of Hollywood, a horror if it were filmed in the style of the golden age. So it's basically a warped Wizard of Oz. That's the only way I can really compare it. So it's not what you think, but it's a prequel, but it's told in from the warped mind of someone that's obsessed with Hollywood and celebrityism, and she's telling the story as like a Dorothy like character who also fucking will cut your ass up with a fucking axe. And then Maxine is the same character from X, who, by the way, Mia Goth plays both Maxine and the old lady Pearl in that movie. So she actually plays the killer and the last girl. In this one, she's the last girl that's now it's like Nancy in Nightmare on Elm Street 3. She's not fucking around anymore. She's done fucking around. So like, and Kevin Bacon, by the way, probably steals the secondary market show. He is the dirtiest, scummy ass bastard character ever. And if you know the horror history, he was murdered in Friday the 13th. It's one of his claims to fame. So Kevin Bacon kind of kills it as the creepy private detective too. Like they just play that Hollywood 80s scuzzy Sunset Boulevard shit. It's so good. It's really good.
Speaking of Friday the 13th, have you watched In a Violent Nature?
No, I want to. That's the guy with the fucking satchel over his head. That like
the old firefighter's helmet thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I saw some movie. So someone like said, post your favorite movie deaths, and it was like literally a killer that walks up behind a girl,
That's
punches
from that
through her
movie.
spine. That's where he rips her head through her
That's
belly
from
and then
In a Violent
turns her,
Nature. Yep.
turns her inside out. Because that's fucking one of the best movie kills I've ever seen in my life. It was awesome, and he like basically turns her into a pretzel. That was
So that one, I did see it. You just know they took a chance because most of the movie is just you're getting it's like someone described it's like you're playing a first person shooter game, but you're getting the camera view from like behind the shooter. Like you're just following the guy. So like
so you,
more than half the movie is just him walking. Like that's what you're saying. It's
Hobbit?
atmosphere,
Oh.
it's the scenery. And if you're not gonna like that, you're probably not gonna like the movie. But if you enjoy that type of stuff, it's like the sound design's great because like you're hearing every single
splatter.
You get the different. You hear like people talking off in the distance. Like
Interesting.
you get closer, so you hear more. Like you get. If you're not into that, maybe don't go watch it. But if you do appreciate those finer things in film, I think it's a good watch.
What was the action movie? Oh god, it was shot Hardcore Henry. It was shot in the first person.
That's what I've seen it compared to.
Oh, really? So that's good then.
It's
Okay,
like
yeah.
kind of
Like his hands even, like you see like what he sees of his own hands, like when he's grabbing people. It's like you're actually like just seeing his point of view, like from his eyes.
Not exactly, but like similar.
Okay.
It's more like think of like video game and like you have like the camera behind the first player following him around. I think it's good. I still think it's good. Good watch. I think the Cubs are going to be a good watch these next 2.5 months. Again, selling would be dumb. I always thought that was more industry talk than real possibility. 3.5 games out, 4 games under 500. I was very tempted. I was looking at some of the odds. I was tempted to bet them playoffs and then they're over. I think the over right now is at 80.5 wins. I definitely think they get over an 80.5 wins. And I think I want to put some money down on them to make the playoffs. Cody Bellinger out. Mike Tauchman, I think, is going to come back maybe right after the All-Star break or maybe early next week. So he'll probably get more playing time until Bellinger gets back. I mean, the difference in the Cubs making the playoffs or not, I think the bullpen can be good enough. The starting pitching has been great. It has to be the middle of the lineup, right? It has to be Seiya Suzuki, Ian Happ, Christopher Morel has to step up. Dansby Swanson has to step up. And if those guys, I think it rides on them. And Cody Bellinger too, when he comes back. It rides on those 5 guys. Like you said, Pete Armstrong can have these amazing plays, have these home run games, but you're not going to count on that. Miguel Amaya, you just want him to not be a complete out when he's at the plate. Catch, don't have any pass balls. Don't have catcher's interference. I think that's been the most annoying part with Miguel Amaya.
One bad inning. Oh my god!
Is that he does? I do feel like he does call a good game. I think he does a solid job framing. I think he's decent at blocking. But the other stuff, the catcher's interference, I think he leads MLB catchers in catcher's interference and pass balls. That can't happen. If you are the defensive catcher, you can't have those type of stats.
No, and you're going to eventually get a Wilson Contreras injury too, so you've got to be very careful.
That's. By the way, Willie can still hit. Good for him. But yeah, I think the Cubs. It's the same guys that we talked about that were underachieving for like those months in May, and then they got hot. They got to stay hot, and that's true. All that streakiness. Keep going, because again, like we talked about, they don't have that star player yet. But maybe Michael Busch, maybe Michael Busch just is that star player. Let's hope so. Any other final thoughts here? I think the other thing, it's like, hey, Cubs have the strength of schedule. I think it's pretty good. It's that weak schedule.
Yep.
So the Cubs have things lined up for them. I think they're gonna make a run here. Kevin, any final thoughts?
Final thoughts, 2. First off, I'm right with you. I think this is, second half of the season. My preseason prediction with the Cubs would win the division. Obviously, is probably out the window. The Cubs are going to be a playoff team. The Cubs are going to play postseason baseball this year. So we're here at this midway point podcast. I'm going to literally go on record and say that I believe the Cubs will make the postseason. They will win playoff games. I don't think that that's not going to happen. I believe that they will. I'm not out on that. So hang in there. I think that the best baseball for the Cubs is still ahead of them. So I think that that's probably the biggest thing I'm going to push. I think that the Cubs need to add some to the bullpen. I think they could really use a superstar bat, but they could really use just consistency from the entire lineup as well. But maybe bringing in somebody new also is a nice little jettison to the clubhouse chemistry that can maybe wake everybody up and get maybe just kind of shake things a little bit. Sometimes maybe uncomfortability gets everybody comfortable. And I know it sounds weird saying that, but sometimes we always say get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So big thing for the Cubs. I think that they can do it. I think if Jed does some trade deadline, he doesn't have to, don't sell anything, don't sell the farm. But unless you can get a guy that's got great team control, that's an established kind of player, that's going to help the team now and in 2-3 seasons as well. So that's my big thing. Secondarily, I want to just say congratulations to the Cortez family. One of my last players that I've most recently coached, Chris Cortez out of Texas A&M. He's one of our guys at Silverado. He was drafted 45th overall, 6th overall pick of the second round for the Anaheim Angels. So really proud of Chris and Tanner McDougal, who we've had on the show. Those were our number 1 and our number 2 in their final seasons of high school. So yes, we did have those 2 guys, and those 2 guys were our number 1 and number 2 players, or pitchers in our staff. And then we got shut down by COVID. So imagine what we could have done that spring with those 2 guys in the state tournament. But anyway, congratulations to the Cortez family. Carlos, his dad, Nick, who also played with us. Big brothers, he's got 3 brothers. They're freaking awesome. It's a baseball family that loves 4-wheeling. Just be careful on goddamn 4-wheels over 4th of July, or your all-star break time. But okay, I know you guys like those fucking 4-wheels and I hate them, but really proud of those guys. Works his ass off. Anaheim Angels fans should be really excited. He's a great kid and a badass. He's like the squat champion. He's the guy that works his ass off every single day. And if they need a base runner, he's probably a better base runner than anybody that they probably have in that dugout. But congrats to those guys. Really proud of them. So super stoked about that. And again, super stoked to get to know as a Cub. Hopefully they'll sign him. But the South Sandy kid will be really great to have another Vegas boy in the Cubs system that's a projectably possible major leaguer, because Vegas does love the Chicago Cubs. I would say that the Cubs and the Yankees are the non-Dodger fan base here in Las Vegas. And it's because we have a lot of Chicago transplants as well. But having a local guy hit it with the Cubs is always a good thing here in Vegas, because it makes me happy to see Cubs stuff a lot more frequently. And that usually brings them back to Aviator Stadium for the Major League Showcase. But we won't need that if the Athletics build their stadium, because then we'll have the Athletics. So that's my final ADHD thoughts, I guess.
Good stuff. Chris, looking forward to having Chris on. Maybe his future teammate, Mike Trout, possibly in the cards.
Great dude, though. I thought that Chris was going to be one of my first practice, he was a freshman, and I'm like, bro, you have a face that looks like you'd be a good boxer. And I don't think he realized what I meant, but he's got like that face where, like, if you put like a little Vaseline on, the gloves are going to slide off. Like he's aerodynamic is what I was trying to say, basically. But tough, hard ass fucking kids, like, love it. So he's going to be he might be up, he might be closing or setting up within a year or 2. He throws 101. I mean, what the hell?
Hopefully a future trade candidate for the Cubs or White Sox. That would be nice. Congrats to Chris. Congrats to all the guys who got drafted. Hopefully all those guys put in the work, and we'll know most of their names for the Cubs and Sox in a few years here. For Kevin, I'm Aldo. By the way, everyone do catch Mitch on the Pinwheels pregame. He's going to have more Sox talk there. He was on Wednesday. Catch that on YouTube. He'll be back again next week. Southside Zoe's going to come back next week too. Second half ramping up. No more Martin Maldonado to ruin Zoe's nights.
And check out Zoe's OnlyFans, because he's probably on a stripper pole right now.
Catch that on the feed for when he drops the link.
Accidental posts.
But for Kevin, I'm Aldo. This is the Pinwheels and Ivy podcast, and we'll see you next week.